Arsenal win like champions. That exactly is what they have just done. In the title race, when it comes down to the last 10, 11, 12 games, the only thing that matters is getting over the line. Now, Chelsea, in the two games that they have played against Arsenal in the Premier League this season, it has been very, very close. But at the end of the day, those tackles from Gabriel and Saliba, those defensive headers from set pieces, those big saves from David Raya, that is what eventually will get Arsenal over the line. A lot of people spoke beforehand and in recent weeks about how Norgard needs to get more game time, about how Norgard isn't being utilised enough. Will he come on with a decent part of the game to play? Arsenal get their first set-piece goal in, 4 or 5 games? And they go 5 points clear over Manchester City. The last 2 games have been extremely difficult. Not in terms of the actual performance, but in terms of the only 2 teams that would love to ruin Arsenal's title chance more than anyone else are Tottenham and Chelsea. And they have gone out there, scored 6 goals, conceded 2, and gone 5 points clear over Manchester City. Bearing in mind, City played yesterday, in which was another huge VAR moment. I covered that yesterday. If you haven't already, check that out. Speaking of checking videos out, go over to the second channel and check out Fulham 2, Tottenham 1. We really are in a relegation battle. It is painful at this point. Make sure you go down and drop a like on the video if you haven't already. If we can hit 1,000 likes, that would be absolutely glorious. Go and follow all the socials. And more importantly, guys, 92% of you who watched the content all the way through February were not subscribed. So if you're watching right now and you haven't already, please go down and hit that subscribe button. The road to 100,000 subscribers is well and truly on, and your support is greatly appreciated. A massive, massive win that is for Arsenal. It won't be the best performance in the world in terms of style and flair and huge goals, but it had huge moments, massive moments. And the 3 players that, again, stepped up massively for Arsenal, Gabriel, Saliba, and David Raya. And as a trio, in terms of 2 centre-backs and a goalkeeper, that's the best trio in Europe. We could talk about the Bastonis. We could talk about the Rudigers and the Courtois. And yes, those teams have won huge honours. But this Arsenal team will as well. They're in the final of the League Cup. They're in the FA Cup 5th round against Mansfield. They're in a comfortable Champions League run in the last 16 and quarters, and maybe even will make it to the final. I actually think they will. But this Arsenal team today, Eze, I thought, played well. I thought Saka played well in the second half, really well. I thought Timber, of course, stepped up with the goal. You saw the 2 best fullbacks in Europe right now in right backs. Maybe you could add Hakimi in there as well. But those 3 are definitely the best 3 right backs. Hakimi, Reece James, and Timber. Put them in any order right now, and it probably won't look silly. But Chelsea can come away holding their heads held high. Bearing in mind, they were down for, they played, 20-odd minutes, something like that, with 10 men. Neto, again, there's a huge disciplinary situation going at Chelsea. That's 9 red cards in all competitions. Hato, Sarr, Chalobah. I thought Sarr had a very good debut. Sanchez, James's set piece was just an absolute joke of a delivery. The standard of set pieces from Rice and Reece James, we have got, in terms of free kicks and corners for England in the World Cup. Palmer, little bit unimpressed with him today. Fernandes, I thought, played well. Neto, João Pedro, up against Gabriel and Saliba. There's only so much you can do. David Raya, for me, best goalkeeper in the Premier League. Some people might say Donnarumma. This guy has to make more saves than Donnarumma for me, and he makes some unbelievable saves. João Pedro's offside, the goal at the end where Delap tapped it in for an offside. He saves the overhead kick, then palms it off the line. Right, he made an unbelievable save just before Chelsea got their goal in the corner, from the corner. Saliba, Gabriel, Timber, and Hincapie, all of Arsenal's back line, unfortunately for Hincapie, were involved in goals. Another assist from Declan Rice. Zubimendi, Eze, Gyökeres, and Bukayo Saka. And both managers really utilised their squad to fair play to Arteta, because he could see Declan Rice looked like he was carrying a knock, and he brings on Norgard. a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about on this channel about how I think he needs to utilize him a little bit more. And fair play he did, because I think that the Arsenal squad, in terms of pound for pound, in terms of the players they've got available, for me, it is the best in Europe. Like, you look at Gusto, Garnacho, Delap, Tosin, and Lavia, isn't a bad squad by any stretch. But the fact that Noni Madueke, Jesus, Calafiori, Mosquera, and Lewis Skelly weren't even involved. And the fact that Ben White, Dalman, and Mikel Merino are all out. Now, of course, there's a number of players that are missing for Chelsea, from Estavo, Wesley Fofana, red card last game, Cucurella, Cole probably won't play again this season. Huge game. Man United will be looking at that very, very positively, knowing the fact that Chelsea have lost. They won. But the fact that Man City played yesterday, they come away with the 3 points against Leeds United. And, the only thing that really mattered for Arsenal was going out there and getting the 3 points. That is the only thing that mattered. And that is exactly what they went and did. Huge moments in that game, huge drama. When you look at the situation with regards to the title race and how important it is for both teams, and how important, coming away and winning matches like this between now and the end of the season, every game's a final pretty much, if you're Arsenal or City. And they went out there. Chelsea started the game really, really well. Chelsea dominated possession, but Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, George Graham, Diego Simeone, you don't have to have the most unbelievable tiki-taka Guardiola style of play. As long as you're winning, no one really cares. They go 1-0 up. Saliba scores his first goal of the season. Gabriel Magalhaes, another goal contribution from him. Probably the best centre-back in Europe right now. Chelsea bounced back in early on. Well, I say early on. It was right bang on half-time. And it was actually a really good ball in from Reece James into the corner. Moments before that, another really good ball into the box. An unbelievable save from David Raya. A very, very, very good save. Puts them in a strong position going into half-time. It's an own goal for Hincapie. And then you're talking about how you're going to react. Well, straight away, Arteta makes a change on the 55th minute. And we speak about so much on this channel. Myself and Terry speak about this all the time on the Top 6 show or on the No Bias pod, about how important it is for team talks at half time to go on and kick on early in the second half. And another fantastic delivery into the box from Declan Rice, and Timber nods it in from pretty much a yard out. And it's a really, really good swinging delivery once again from Declan Rice. And they put themselves in the driver's seat. And then, Neto sent off only 4 minutes later. He's swinging his arms around beforehand, gets booked, and then he brings down Martinelli for a second yellow. Now, when you look at the match stats, it wasn't the most inciting game in the world. I actually thought this would have a bit more drama, more goals. But Arsenal come away with higher XG, more shots on target, the same amount of big chances created. Like I said, Chelsea should come away from that game. That would be a very different game if it was 11 versus 11 going into the the rest of the game, because that for me had a lot of big moments right at the end. David Raya save. And if Chelsea would have had a full 11, it maybe would have been a completely different game. But midweek football is coming up. The Premier League is relentless right now. Football is relentless. Arsenal have a huge month. A League Cup final, they're currently 5 points clear. They've only lost 3 of 29, which is absolutely obscene. They've scored 1 more goal than Man City now, have the best goal difference by 4 in the Premier League, although City do have a game in hand against Crystal Palace. But as it stands right now, it's a very, very good position for Arsenal to be in as well. You look at the fixtures that they have got between now and the cup final. I spoke about it from here, Sam, between the 22nd of Feb and the 22nd of March, we will really find out what this Arsenal team is capable of and what they can do. Since then, they've battered us in an North London derby. They've just beaten Chelsea. And between now and the cup final, you know, they've got a comfortable tie in the Champions League against Bayer Leverkusen. They've got Everton at home in the Premier League after Leverkusen, bearing in mind Manchester City will have to play Real Madrid. So they're really going to have to maximise their squad. They've got a tough trip away to Newcastle in the FA Cup. Bearing in mind, Arsenal can heavily rotate between the Brighton and Leverkusen. It'll probably be the same team you see play those games. They can heavily rotate against Mansfield. I think they'll go out and beat Brighton, although Brighton have won their last 2 games and Danny Welbeck is on good form. But as it stands right now, that there's a lot for Arsenal to be positive about. A hell of a lot for Arsenal to be positive about. Looking at the way they're playing, looking at how they're getting results out right now. And in terms of, you know, Man City's fixtures, they have got a couple of big games in the Champions League against Real Madrid. You know, they won yesterday and it puts huge pressure on Arsenal going into today. But let me know your thoughts. Who do you think will win the Premier League? You know, Man City are on something like 8 wins in a row or something stupid like that, or 7 wins in the last 8 games. But they do have a tougher run for me. You know, West Ham away in the Premier League right now, slap bang in the middle of Real Madrid. And who knows how big Erling Haaland's injury is going to be? Who actually knows? If he is missing, you know, on another day, Leeds United yesterday would have got 2 or 3 goals easily. Easily. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had his shooting boots on. They should comfortably beat Nottingham Forest. But those next 4 games, Newcastle United away, who've got nothing to lose in the FA Cup, really. You know, it's a much bigger competition for City at this point because everyone's talking about, can Arsenal or City do the quad? Then they play Real Madrid, and then they've got West Ham United. Slap bang in the middle. And then they, after Real Madrid, they then go on to play Arsenal, whereas Arsenal will have Leverkusen, which at this point, when you look at where they are in the Bundesliga, it's a much more comfortable tie for Arsenal. When you look at Bayer Leverkusen is a completely different outfit to Real Madrid, and considering Bayer Leverkusen right now are 6th in the Bundesliga. So there's a long way to go. Make sure you go down, you drop a like on the video. Make sure you go down and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching. I am out.